My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the iHeartRadio network. And Big C Sports is the number one media company in the United States, and also iHeartMedia is the number one media company in the United States as well. And Big C, I want to tell you, there's so much appreciation I have for our Latin American audience, so bienvenidos to you. Thank you very much for following Charlton and Big C Sports, and of course in Paris, France, and London, England. And of course, I want to say the great country of Canada. I'm still working on doing my national anthem, so I'm not going to try to mess it up this time, Big C. I'm afraid of hate bills coming through. But I do know how to say this: the land of the free and the home of the brave. How's it going for you good old boys down south, Big C? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, and everybody, is getting into that holiday spirit. Families are going to be getting together.
Yeah.
And enjoying this blissful time of the year. And I may even send you out a bottle or two just to warm you up for the winter.
Hey, send me what they call moonshine light, Big C. I don't know if I can handle this great taste. Billy D. Williams, he told us, he said, don't let the smooth taste fool you. I think he was telling the truth, Big C. But I love saying how today is a beautiful December the 20th, 2016. And coming up on the holiday spirit, so many things to be grateful for. There's so many great actors out there. Denzel has a movie coming out. We know the Star Wars movie just came out. There's so many great things happening in the world of sports. Last night had a great football game in the NFL on Monday night. Great if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, but think about the talk of the Washington Redskins. I think they're 1-16 since 1991 at home, Big C, going back to RFK Stadium. But what are your thoughts on the great performance by Cam Newton and against Kirk Cousins last night in the Monday Night Football game, Big C?
This was a game that, all of the mainstream media was going in talking about how great Kirk Cousins was. He's in this, franchise year making $20 million.
Wow.
$20 million, Charlton, with the franchise tag on him as quarterback because he had turned down a long-term deal from the Redskins gambling on himself. Yes, he's number two in the NFL in passing, Charlton, but being number two in the NFL in passing and being on a team that's not making the playoffs doesn't bode well for a big-time long-term contract, Brock Osweiler. Okay?
Brock Osweiler style, huh? Yeah,
okay.
I understand.
Cam Newton has always shown signs all through the year that he's still the same good quarterback that we've seen last year win the league MVP. The thing that I was most appalled about last night, Charlton, was the non-call against Cam Newton when he was hit by the line as he was floating.
Yeah.
Charlton, any top elite great quarterback is going to get that roughing call, and the player may get ejected from the game that strikes him above the shoulder.
Oh, yeah. If that was someone like a Tom Brady, do you think a call would have been called on him, Big C? It's not as if...
Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, even Carson Palmer, Charlton, Joe Flacco, we can go up and down the list. Matthew Stafford, any white quarterback that makes $100 million, Charlton, is going to get that call, and potentially that defender is going to be kicked out of the game. But the cowardness of this official standing right there witnessing this, Charlton, and then have the audacity to throw the flag on Cam Newton.
They threw the flag on Cam Newton.
He tossed the ball at the player. Everybody watching the game in real time thought that this was a roughing call.
Yeah.
And they were applauding the official for throwing the roughing call.
Yeah.
But this is one of those stand-back officials. For some reason, he has a peeve with Cam Newton and will not make a call against him. And people want to make the notation, well, he was outside the pocket. I don't care if he's outside the damn stadium.
Yeah.
You got to throw a flag in that incident, Charlton, because he is still a player on the field.
Yeah.
And it is stated within the NFL rules, targeting is a shot above the head, above the shoulders, to the head. That's what we all witnessed last night, Charlton. Every person in America that watched Monday Night Football witnessed the same thing, and the NFL was a coward, and the official was a coward for not protecting Cam Newton. But if that had been Kirk Cousins who took that shot, who was in line trying to make $25 million next year on a team that doesn't make the playoffs, and they'll pay him, Charlton, because he's white.
Yeah.
They don't make the playoffs, they still make money. And he gives up 10 points.
Yep.
He threw a critical interception to the Panthers. He also fumbled the ball like Cam Newton did last year in the Super Bowl that led to a touchdown, but no one lambasted Kirk Cousins for this.
Yeah.
There's a double standard in the media and in the officiating, Jonathan, and just across the NFL.
Yeah, I think there's always something to focus on, Big C. I just want to say that this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. In fact, you might even tell them you want the one that Big C was driving, the one he was leasing, Big C, because that's the one you might get a discount with all that mud they got to clean up off the car. You know how sometimes you take your car to a dealer and they put these mats, these plastic sheets down between where your shoes land and the floor mats, Big C, as if that's going to make a big difference. But what do they do about mud on the steering wheel?
I got that plastic on the furniture now.
Yeah, that's funny. You got to have the. Remember, I think there was a movie by the great Eddie Murphy. I think it was called Coming to America, and he went by his grandmother's house. Arsenio Hall was also in that movie. And they went by his grandmother's house, and she had this plastic on her furniture, Big C, because they all wore the Jerry curl back in the day. You wore the Jerry curl back in the day, did you, Big C? Yeah, it was the Jerry curl.
That's what they do in Canada on ice. It's called curling,
yeah, that's funny. I used to have a Jerry curl, too, until my hair turned orange. I don't know how they got that approved through the FDA to give to the African Americans. Sometimes you believe in your conspiracy. I think the Jerry curl was part of a conspiracy for people. I just want to think that's funny, though. But back into the world of the NFL, there's so many great things have happened, and I want to just pay a little bit of homage to the great running back out of Ohio State, and now for the Dallas Cowboys, Ezekiel Elliott. When he jumped into that bucket for the Salvation Armies, I hear their donations are up like $185,000, Big C.
Well, Thomas, that was a marketing move on Ezekiel, and it worked in behalf of the Salvation Army.
Yeah.
Yet there are other players around the NFL that are upset because the NFL didn't fine him on that. I mean, it's something that's on the field. He didn't bring a prop to the field, Charlton. All he did was jump in a barrel. Didn't harm anybody. Got out of the barrel with the aid of his teammates. But the donation to the Salvation Army, a very worthy cause.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where, politics and sports cross over.
Yeah.
The Salvation Army is a donation, company that's political.
Yeah,
when you look at it.
And unlike...
when you get tweets from other players around the league that are upset because they've been fined for some antics, but Charlton, they've been butt heads all year long. That's the reason why they get fined.
Yeah, it's a catch-up effect when it comes to a lot of these guys, Big C.
And Ezekiel, did it, he did it just in the interest of the game. It was a spontaneous thing. He didn't draw any other attention to himself other than hiding in a barrel.
Yeah.
He wasn't out there doing gyrations or doing antics with something else on the field, like an Odell Beckham who is constantly trying to draw attention to himself, even being a great player.
Yeah.
Just play the damn game. You'll be okay.
Yeah, and something that I really look at when it comes to the NFL, Big C, is how the game should be fun. You're asking fans to spend a lot of money on people to play in a uniform, a game that we all love, Big C. And you have this coaching carousel that goes on. I think it was a coach that used to coach for the Baltimore Ravens. I'm forgetting his name, but he's a TV commentator now.
Belichick.
No, what?
Brian Billick.
Yeah,
Brian
Billick. Coach Billick. He mentioned that in the time that he was with the Ravens, just the Ravens, there were about 30 coaching changes over the tenure that he was there with the Ravens, Big C. Different teams going through coaches like every 3 years. That's incredible when you think about the number of turnover. I think you should allow the fans to let the fans get something for their money. People spend a lot of money to go to a game, and we love football. We're addicted to it. But you still should let the players have a little bit of fun. It's a very intense game. It's a physical game. But I think what Ezekiel Elliott, it added a little bit of fun and made it feel like it's okay to be a kid. It's okay to work hard all week and play in the game and do something that benefits other people the same way Cam Newton did with the footballs, Big C. Would you like to see the NFL being less lenient? They were going to fine them at first until someone got a conscience and said, you know what, let's have some fun as a holiday. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charles, I guess a parallel to that would be the NBA eliminating the dunk, okay?
Yeah.
How exciting is the dunk in the NBA? All of a sudden we got the WNBA. That would be the NBA if that's the case.
Yeah.
Let's take the stolen base out of baseball, okay? Because what is a stolen base? I mean, you're basically antagonizing the other team.
Yeah.
You're taunting them. When you get a player leaning off first base, taunting the pitcher, saying, hey, I'm going to go, taunting the catcher, saying, I'm going to go, taunting the second baseman or the shortstop, whoever's covering, I'm going to go. That's taunting. When you look at it as far as how the NFL, classifies taunting, Charles. So take away all these great things in these other sports that make them great. The dunk, the stolen base, make the game boring, and all you can do is hit, and all of a sudden now you don't have a first baseman covering first base. Think about the whole closure that you have on the right side of the infield, Charlton.
Yeah.
No longer will there be these singles anymore getting through there. That first baseman's going to nab everything. So let's eliminate all the excitement that the fans can have. Think about what happened with Ricky Henderson in his career.
Wasn't he amazing?
Base stealer.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have existed. Lou Brock, who had the record prior to Ricky Henderson. These great base runners, Charlton, would have been non-existent if they had taken on the ideals of the NFL right now with your buddy, the commissioner, and these things are not, part of the game.
Well, I tell you, with all the money that Goodell makes and all the owners in the league, they should have a lot of fun. I do want to bring you something up after we hit this sponsor real quick, and this segment is sponsored by the California Lottery. What can a buck do for you? And, a lot of people have fun playing lotto at Big C. Be responsible with the money. A lot of it goes to help the cause of the school programs. And I was hoping that a lot of it could go to help the cause of Charlton and Big C Sports. Big C, I'm still going to buy my lotto tickets. You still buying lotto tickets, Big C? One thing about moonshine, when you buy moonshine, when you buy the moonshine, you get something to drink. When you buy the lotto ticket, I'm not really sure, Big C, but your thoughts?
Well, I'm trying to save up enough to be able to go out and buy a ticket this weekend, John. I'm looking in the backs of the seats and everything, and down on the floor base, in between the couch cushions. I might be able to come up with enough change to get a ticket or two this weekend.
Yeah, that's funny. And now, speaking of money, there was so much talk that you and I have been talking about over the last year, Big C, and how college football is a big game of exploitation. And we know everyone has to eat. Everyone has to keep some food in their stomach. And if you're a college athlete and you're not given a chance to do that, the intelligent athletes, they're going to start saying, what's in it for me? And some of these intelligent athletes, they're going to start saying the same thing we're starting to see right now. You have McCaffrey out of the great University of Stafford under David Shaw, and you have the good old boy down south in the SEC, Fournette. These two top running backs, they realize they're worth probably $100 million over the span of their NFL career. But I think there's a guy named Billy Joe Dupree back in the days at Oklahoma, Big C. Now, I think he was considered one of the best running backs in the history of the NFL. I may or may not be wrong or right about this, but did he get injured, I believe, and it cost him tens of millions of dollars, Big C?
Well, I think you're talking about
Marcus
Dupree.
Dupree.
Who played in Oklahoma under Barry Switzer. Yeah. And Marcus Dupree played at the time of the inception of the USFL, okay?
Yeah.
He left college midway through his freshman season and went into the USFL. He had knee injuries in the USFL, but he also had leg injuries while he was at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But, this is what shortened his career, and he knew that the potential of injuries. He finished his NFL career, Charlton, with the Los Angeles Rams, where he played a season. He wanted to go to the NFL, and this was after being out of football for 4 years.
Yeah.
He went to the NFL. John Robinson gave him an opportunity. He made the team. He led the team in rushing the second year, Charlton, in the preseason, and they released him. And
wow.
No one still knows today why they released him after leading the team in rushing. And it just came out of the blue, but he never tried again after that. He proved his point.
Yeah.
But, another back today, Charlton, said that he would not participate in his team's bowl game because he wanted to get ready for the draft. And that's Shaq Linwood, Charlton, out of the University of Baylor.
Yeah.
So this is three running backs. And you and I have had extensive talks about how the NFL and all the experts out there have devalued the African-American running back, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because they're predominantly African-American. McCaffrey is the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
But, he's a multi-purpose player, like a Reggie Bush when he came out of college.
Yeah.
He's a jack of all trades, and we'll see which one that he can master,
yeah.
whether it's a slot receiver or a running back, Charlton. But, you look at this, and we talked about the exploitation, the copious amount of money that the universities are making. Players are receiving none of it. Coaches are getting bonuses, Charlton. There's coaches getting up to $500,000 bonus
Yeah.
For winning a bowl game, taking this team to a bowl, being undefeated, these type of things.
Yeah.
But the players get nothing, and that's where all the labor comes from and all the productivity. Coach looks good on the sideline, the baseball game.
Yeah.
His arms folded, but he don't break a sweat. He don't take a crackback block.
No.
He don't take these things, Charlton. But these players are becoming more and more politically savvy, as we say, economically aware of their value. Is what they are.
And I think they have to have that consciousness, Big C. There's a college football game tonight. It's in Boca Raton, Florida. The Boca Raton Bowl out of Boca Raton, Florida. Memphis 8-4, and Western Kentucky is 10-3 in that game. Now, if one of those players,
look at this. Western Kentucky's coach left.
Oh, really?
Gone. He's gone to Purdue. So he left his team.
You mean he didn't have a heart and a love for his program, Big C?
He was not around, so he could leave for more money. No one's blasting Ron for leaving for more money, okay?
Oh yeah, he left for more money. So you're saying that he can get paid for his labor? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's okay for a coach to leave.
Yeah.
And make more money, to make a better life for himself. But it's not okay for a player from the mainstream media. They look at these players with backlash. How can you walk out on your university at a time like this? Your teammates that you've played with all these years.
Yeah.
Hell, how can the coach leave? Because the paycheck was bigger.
Well, let me ask you this.
Opportunity was bigger.
Opportunity was there. And who's the good old boy that left the University of Houston that everybody wanted, and he went down and replaced Charlie Strong at Texas?
Tom Herman left Houston, walked out. His team got their butt kicked in a bowl game last week. His former team down in University of Houston,
so
down in the Las Vegas Bowl. But no one blasted Herman during the game, Charlton, for leaving Houston, going to Texas.
Well, let me ask you a question. Now, did he turn his back on his players, Big C, or was he just looking out for himself, Big C?
Oh, Charlton, everybody said he's looking out for himself. Who gives a damn about the players? Let's be realistic. That's the coach that left for a better opportunity.
Yeah.
And everybody said, well, it was a career move for him.
Yeah.
So a player not going into a bowl game and prepping for the NFL draft, that's not a career move for him.
Yeah.
He's not savvy and intelligent enough to know that, where his career is. It's next year, not next week's bowl game, Johnson.
Let me ask you this question, Big C. Do the players at the University of Houston or Western Kentucky, do they feel betrayed by their coach? Do they feel like he quit on the team, Big C? Is that what you're trying to say?
Johnson, we've seen that many times that you walk out on the players that you lied to 2, 3, 4 years ago. You lied to them, you lied to their parents.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here to see your son graduate. I'm going to be here to make sure he's taken care of for his 4 years that he's committed to our university.
Well, Big C, let me.
By the way, let me give you this escape clause.
Yeah.
If somebody else comes to me and offers me more money, I don't give a damn about you or you.
Let me ask you this question, Big C. What was the color, the ethnic makeup of these coaches that left right away, even though their team still had a game to play, Big C? Your thoughts?
Johnson, every one of these coaches who left and walked out on their universities were white coaches, Johnson. Let's be honest about it. They walk away from the African-American players as well as the white players that they've committed to, Johnson, that they recruited over the past 4 years.
Well,
they recruited these players, made promises to these players, said, I'm going to be a father to your son.
Yeah.
I'm going to be, okay, so your dad's walked away. So now what are you? You're in a single-parent household?
In fairness to the coaches, Big C, don't you think these coaches called all those parents that they sat in the living rooms with saying, I'm going to take care of your son and make sure your son gets an education, don't you think they at least called each and every one of those parents, Big C?
Jonathan, Tom Herman left in the middle of the night to flight from Houston down to Austin, so he could be at the press conference.
Yeah.
He didn't call anybody. He didn't call the team. He didn't even call a team meeting, Jonathan, prior to leaving.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. Why is there so much vitriol by media people and even the schools that are saying McCaffrey and Fournette are setting a bad example because they're intelligent and they're going to help open the eyes of other intelligent kids, and they're going to realize they're going to get a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. One side says $100 million over the next 10 years. The other side says free. And they're getting mad that these guys are choosing the $100 million. Is that a bad thing, Big C?
Well, Jonathan, it was an exclusive club that was set up for white head coaches. That you can leave for greener pastures on the other side. And greener pastures meant more money.
Yeah.
That's what greener pastures meant. If somebody was paying you more money, don't concern yourself with those that are left behind.
Yeah.
Okay? don't be worried about them. They'll be all right. Somebody else will come along and manipulate them, Charlton, and get them to work for free also. Don't worry about that. You go ahead on, make yourself more money.
Yeah.
Okay? This is your opportunity to move up in life. Don't worry about the players.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the promises that you made, the broken promises that you made. It's okay because money takes care of all that for you.
Yeah.
It will soothe your conscience because you're going to go out and double your income,
Yeah.
triple your income in some instances. But these players are still going to be sitting back here working for that university that you recruited them to,
Yeah.
not knowing what their future is going to be with the new regime that comes in, Charles.
Well, I think what's happening right now is kind of the worst fear for some of these universities. I think when Minnesota, for whatever reason they had going on, when they were talking about canceling the bowl game, I think at the Holiday Bowl, the question wasn't, oh my God, how are these kids going to get their education if they lose their scholarship? The question was, oh my God, how are we going to pay back all this money that we've gotten people to pay into the program and all the sponsorship that's going to be paid out to the schools by playing in that game? That was the concern. It was all about money, the same thing that they don't want the athletes to get. And again, most of these athletes happen to be African American. And I just want to ask this question. Of all the talk of the money and all the smart athletes that are saying my career is worth more than playing for the school than getting a sweater, I think it's setting a precedent, and it's something that should happen, because if the universities are getting away with this free Jim Crow style labor that's making them tens of millions, now even going into the billions, if they're not willing to pay these athletes, the smart ones will opt out. Could you imagine if the top quarterbacks going on to the national championship or the Final Four this year, if they all decided, I'm not going to risk my career playing free football in college, I'm going to take my talents to the NFL where I could at least make $50 to $100 million over the next 10 years. You think that's a good thing, Big C?
I think it's a good smart thing on the athletes they have. Something each one of those quarterbacks, other than the freshman in Alabama,
Yeah.
declared for the NFL draft, okay?
Yeah.
So you can walk in there basically with 3 games, with 3 quarterbacks not playing.
Yeah.
Then what would these situations be with these programs?
Yeah.
You know, you're going to play an unproven backup who has not played all year in those situations. It won't happen, but look at the drawback that you would get.
Yeah.
You know, the fan-basing of these athletes, how dare they? How dare they not go out and play for free? That's what they would say. No one's saying that all the coaches in these games, Charlton, probably the smallest bonus will be Peterson.
Yeah.
Getting probably $200,000 bonus for making it to the championship series, okay?
Yeah.
Saban's going to get a $500,000. Dabu Swinney's going to get a $500,000. And you know your boy at Ohio State, Myers,
Oh, yeah.
going to get at least a $500,000. You know, somebody's going to get $750,000, Charlton.
That's just for getting on the airplane, Big C, from what I understand. This good old boy.
But what are the players going to get, Charlton? Oh, they're going to get a sweatsuit saying playoff series, okay?
No, that's not
wow.
true, Big. They also get a picture. They get a team picture with the school colors and the uniform. They get that, and they all get to hold that trophy, Big C. That's something. I mean, don't you think that's at least important, Big C, more than money? Holding that trophy, Big C?
They'll probably get another new pair of sneakers. You know, that'll go with their sneaker collection. None of them will get insurance, Charlton. None of them have playing insurance, you know, that the university provides them with just in case they get injured, that they would receive a lump sum of money if they didn't play football again, Charlton. The insurance, the university, if they can't pay the players, Charlton, at least take out an insurance policy on all of them. A playing insurance policy. And several players have always tried to figure out how could they get these huge, you know, insurance policies that would pay them $20-30 million, you know, in their final year of playing. Where to get the money? The student athletes without a job.
Well,
but, you know, this is something that the university should be obligated to do. If you can't pay the player, Charlton, at least put a health insurance, a football health insurance policy on it, that if he get injured, he's going to be guaranteed a few $1 million, Charlton.
Yeah, well,
That's what should be an obligation of all the universities.
Well, Big C, I think when people start hearing something over and over again that makes sense, then they'll start citing that way. Back in the day, there was a kid out of Sacramento, California, named Randy Fasani. He went down to the University of Stanford on a scholarship, but he had a knee injury coming from high school because he got hurt. I don't know if it was an all-star game, but I know he had a knee brace. Well, the kid ended up getting hurt again at Stanford, but he took out a policy, $1 million policy, which is not a lot of money now. Back in the day, right around the mid-'90s, that's when he went there. And he was considered one of the best high school quarterbacks in California by Cal High Sports, but he also took that policy. I'm proud of McCaffrey. His father played professional football. He understands it's a business. I think Javen Clowney did the same thing when he was in college down in the ACC. They would say he would take plays off because he did not want to get hurt and injure his career. Let me ask a lot of people, and my heart and thoughts go out to the late running back Rashawn Salam out of the University of Colorado that ended his life tragically just recently. Well, he was considered suffering from CTE. I don't know what his financial status was, Big C, but I don't think a lot of people really concerned themselves with what happened to him after he took off the uniform at the University of Colorado. If that were the case, I'm sure the administration would have reached out to him. But as you know, once you're gone, you're gone. And so these players right now, I congratulate them for having a consciousness and not just being buffoons and being used by the universities that just want to pimp them for their labor. And we all love football. And I just want to make sure that all the other athletes understand. Think just like the coaches, the same coaches that come to your living room and tell you that they're going to take care of you for the rest of your career at that university. They opt for the money. As soon as someone gives them money, they're gone. And I just want to say that this segment is sponsored by United Labor Guaranteed Life Insurance up to $100,000. No medical questions. Also, we are endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. We work with all of the unions in the country under the AFL-CIO. And we're also looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to put people back to work. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports at Yes Charlton on Twitter. You can also follow us every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. Big C, I want to touch on one thing coming up on the world of sports. Alabama and Washington, they last played each other. I think they played in the Sun Bowl down in El Paso, Texas. And I think it was back in the 90s. I think Alabama won that game 29-6. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because Brent Musburger, he was doing the play-by-play. They had a lot of good players on Alabama's team, a lot of good players on Washington's team. I think Cornelius Bennett was one of the main guys for Alabama. He went on to play for the Buffalo Bills. And there was a receiver for Washington by the name of Hill. His father was J.D. Hill, who played college football and also NFL football. One thing
Hill was the wide receiver.
Yeah, Hill, the wide receiver. One of the things that sticks out in my mind is all of these players were playing in the packed house down in El Paso, Texas. Brent Musburger was making money as a broadcaster. And way back in the 90s, these guys were playing for free. I think at least McCaffrey and Fournette are starting to change that, at least for the socially conscious athletes, Big C. And I think it's a good thing. Because even Brent Musburger back in the day, they never talked about these guys getting paid. They just talked about how much money they can make at the next level. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charlton, it was the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we've had three thus far, and I expect those numbers to rise.
Yeah.
If you're not playing for a national championship, Charlton, truly, what is the desire to play in a bowl game? They're going to hold back a watch from you because you're not going to get a championship ring from playing in these ancillary bowl games, Charlton. Yeah. When you look at it, you're going to get a watch, a sweatsuit, a baseball cap, and a buffet meal.
Yeah.
The only people that's going to get a championship ring out of Charlton is the ones who eventually win the national championship. So you have a 1 in 4 chance of getting a ring if you're in one of these 41 playoff games.
Wow.
So 40 teams will, not 40, but 80 teams, Charlton, 81 teams will not get a championship ring. When you think about it, out of 41 bowl games,
yeah,
only one team, Charlton, will get championship rings. So all these other players out there are playing for what, Charlton? The last hurrah? That's basically what it is, because when the game is over, what occurs to you? They walk away from you. They turn their backs on you. Yeah. They're looking for the next class of recruits that are coming in. Those seniors, you're gone. You're out of here. Thank you for the memories, because we didn't have to give you a dime for what you gave us.
Well, Big C, I think that's something that we know. There's two ways to get things done. It's not necessarily a protest, other than just being intelligent. And I applaud these athletes for doing that. I believe the quarterback down at Clemson, Deshaun Watson, I believe he wears a knee brace. I believe he has a knee brace, and he's one of the top quarterbacks in the country. He actually was in second place for the Heisman Trophy, and we know how good he is. If he were to walk out of the top Final Four playoff games, then a lot of people would say he turned his back on Clemson, even though the coach at Houston left, Western Kentucky left, and coaches are leaving all the time. We know, Oregon fired their coach. Texas fired Strong. He went down to find another job. Big C, Fresno State fired their guy. It happens all the time. There's even talk that Kelly might leave Notre Dame because he's tired of yelling at kids and not being able to get what he wants, and they're not winning games. And then now it's starting to expose his loss record is getting more recognized than his won record, Big C. And he can't be like Coach Fisher, and say, I don't pay attention to the losses, Big C. I just pay attention to the wins, Big C. But I just want to bring this up because it's so important for the conscious athletes out there. Don't even be mistaken for 1 second that there's $1 billion on the line for the Final Four in college football. None of it's going to the athletes. But let's even look after that, Big C. On Saturday, January 21st, we have the East-West Shrine Classic in St. Petersburg, Florida. And that game's going to be on ESPN, actually on the NFL Network at 3 o'clock p.m. After that, we have the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. I never heard of that, but that's in Carson, California, and it's called the National versus the Americans. I mean, they'll have the National League, American League for college. No pay in any of these games. What if these kids get hurt? We have Saturday, January 28th, the Senior Bowl in your neck of the woods, Mobile, Alabama, the South versus the North. And all of this is designed for these top college football players, Big C, to get another look by the NFL scouts. Well, let me ask you a question. Most of them have to be a senior to play in these games. Haven't they already seen how good you are from your freshman, sophomore, and junior, as well as senior seasons, Big C? In my mind, for the guys who can make between $50 to $100 million with the TV contract coming up, it's just another chance to get injured. Would it be prudent for them to say, I'm not going to take a chance and get hurt in this game? Your thoughts?
Charlton, when you really look at it over the past 4 or 5 years, the elitist players have withdrawn from these games.
Yeah.
It's been more of the second-tier players, Charlton, coming in, playing in these games because they already have established their draft stock that they feel.
Yeah.
They want to go to the combine, and a lot of the elite players don't do all the drills in the combine, Charlton, because they don't want to lessen their value if they don't have a great performance in a particular drill.
Yeah.
So they've established where they are in their minds where they should go in the draft. They have all these experts out there saying where they should go.
Yeah.
They've been wrong on more than 3,000 occasions.
Yeah.
I would guess since the combine has started.
Yeah.
But when you send these players to these games, Charlton, you look at the Pro Bowl. When was the last time you see a Pro Bowl be competitive? I mean, they look like San Francisco 49ers secondary playing in the Pro Bowl, playing defense.
Yeah,
they're not going to tackle anybody, Charlton.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Somebody got tackled in the Pro Bowl seriously was Drew Brees.
Yeah.
And he tore up his shoulder. Since then, nobody's tackled anybody in the Pro Bowl, Charlton. And they moved the game from Hawaii to Miami.
Yeah.
What's going to be the interest in Miami for all these players to come down there, and they know they're not going to be competitive? Nobody here is going to put out their money. They stopped putting out their money in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And the Pro Bowl players, Charlton, the winning team, they're getting $20,000 per player for not playing. And yet, you can't give a college team or the whole team $20,000, Charlton.
Yeah. That's
the
right.
incentive?
You're right. And I think that's one of the reasons. And again, going back, because sometimes history tends to repeat itself. And just looking at it was Washington and Alabama in the Sun Bowl in El Paso, Texas, back in the 90s. I remember Cornelius Bennett was there on the team. And I'll never forget how good these athletes were, but they were small compared to what you have now, Big C. And when you think about how much money those guys did not make, even though they're still Hall of Famers for the most part, Cornelius Bennett, Hall of Fame player, and several other good players on those teams, Big C, in that game. But the one thing that never changes, or the only thing that can change your life, is how much financial power you have. You can be the most intelligent person with 5 degrees, but if you don't have income, you can struggle. You could be someone who doesn't have a lot of intellect, even maybe you just went to high school. But if you have a good income, you can take care of your family. And I applaud these young players. And I think more and more that's what's going to scare the NCAA into coming up with some type of minimum wage for these athletes, because you got to think about this. You're going to lose your scholarship because you take the chance to exercise your financial obligations to your family. A lot of these kids, sometimes they may even be parents. They need some type of money. And even if you don't make it to the NFL, a lot of them might decide they don't want to have CTE. They don't want to deal with that. And just like Rashaan Salam, Colorado didn't care about what happened to him once he took off the the black and gold uniforms under Coach McCartney, Big C. They didn't care what happened to him. And God bless Lawrence Phillips. He another life that ended tragically. He was a guy that was an All-American running back at the University of Nebraska under the great Tom Osborne. And when he was out of the game of football, was the Nebraska alumni looking after Lawrence Phillips. We know his life ended tragically. They didn't care about these, and these are the two of the top running backs in the history of their programs, Big C. And they, unfortunately, came to a short life. Maybe, whatever happened to happen. I don't know the whole circumstances as to why they ended up where they did. But I'm just saying there was no concern by the universities. And I hope these young kids, while they still have their faculties and they still have their health, that more of them will take the time to exercise their right. But, Big C, do you think this is going to force the schools to even talk about pay, Big C? Because the players really do have the power once they understand it, Big C.
Well, Charlton, if you look at the half dozen bowl games that have been played thus far, and when you look at the combined population in the stadiums, Charlton, of these half dozen bowl games, it would not have filled up the Orange, not the Orange Bowl, but the Citrus Bowl down there in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
It would have not filled up that stadium. You had a half dozen bowl games, Charlton, that have been played. Yeah. So where's the fan interest, Charlton, in these games?
They can't afford it.
The fans have no interest. Why should the players have interest? People say, well, they're getting a bowl game.
Yeah.
Wow. If you didn't win your conference championship, what does it mean, Charlton? You're not playing on New Year's Day. What does it mean, Charlton? I mean, you got to talk to people now that you didn't make a bowl game. Teams with losing records, Charlton, are getting bowl games. They're just trying to put bodies in these stadiums. That's all they're trying to do, Charlton. They're not trying to benefit the player. They're putting you out there so for one more chance to get a beat down physically and say, hey, I made money for these people.
Well, Big C, ironically, after I hit the sponsorship, I'm going to tell you something that's so egregious. And this segment is sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. We are also looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers because we simply want to put people back to work. And tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports at YesCharlton on Twitter. Also follow us every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. Also introducing athletic insurance. So if you're an athlete or any event that hosts athletics, then we can also get you covered with that. And tweet out again to Charlton and Big C Sports. When you just brought up something to my mind, Big C, I was just going over the 41 bowl games coming up. There's something called the Heart of Dallas Bowl in Dallas, Texas. It's noon. It has North Texas, which is 5-7, versus Army, and they're 7-5 now. How in the world is someone going to fly 2,000 or 3,000 miles on an airplane to watch a team that won 5 games in the regular season compete in a bowl game? In another game outside of that, you have Wake Forest, which is 6-6. They're playing Temple, which is 10-3. That game is in Annapolis, Maryland, in the Military Bowl. Those games are not sexy, and that's why a lot of these stadiums are empty. You have people out shopping for Christmas, not trying to get on the airplane to watch a team that has 5 wins, Big C. 5, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know that's as many wins as Carson Wentz has, Big C, but most people won't get on the plane and go watch that game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the largest contingency in the crowd is going to be from the academy.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have the naval base down there in Texas, where the Army base, that you're going to bring all the people in and let them get in for free.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be your attendance in the game, Charlton. But when you're talking about bringing, an academy to Texas, Charlton, from the East Coast, who's going to travel? You're talking about military personnel, Charlton. They don't have the ability to just get up and go.
Yeah.
They're committed to the academy.
Yeah.
And so this is where that life is year-round.
Yeah.
And so to bring this team halfway across the country, Charlton, and saying you're going to get the appeal in this game, Charlton, it's not right. In North Texas, it's basically a home game
for them, yeah.
But they can only win 5 games. So where's the deal? Because when you talk about Texas, you think about Texas.
Yeah.
You think about Houston. You think about A&M. You think about those schools, Charlton. There's so many schools in Texas that North Texas, where the hell is it at?
Yeah.
Where's North Texas at? So you're not going to get fanfare. It's not Texas Tech. It's not one of these programs that you've heard about.
Yeah.
So, you're going to look at the stands and there's going to be, 1,500 people in the stadium.
Yeah,
maybe.
And
the stadium will most likely, I'm going to assume it's going to be down at TCU, down in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
That, this stadium seats 47,000 people.
Yeah.
So you're going to have 1,500 people in the stands. How do you pan away from that, Charlton, at all? From a TV perspective.
That's funny how they do that, Big C. So one thing that I want to just applaud all the athletes coming up on bowl season. We all love the game of sports, but the exploitation games, as you become conscious, if you're just a dumb person, then you just go play and root for your school. But as you become more intelligent and you realize if you start thinking like the coaches that come to you and they lie to your parents about how they're going to take care of you, unless more money shows up, then they're gone. In the middle of the night, they take out Big C. Start exercising your power to take control of your life. Be responsible for what happens to your financial future, and opt out of these bowl games if that's what you want to do, if you think that's the best thing for you. If you don't think you're going to make it to the pro level where you get paid and you want to go and play, that's fine. But I even heard, someone that I disagree with, the great Chris Carter, who played at Ohio State and also played in the NFL. I believe he played with the Eagles and, of course, the Vikings, Big C. He was saying that he thought the players were making a mistake by opting out of the bowl games. He would not do that to his program, but the coaches would leave. Now, Chris Carter, unlike a lot of these players in college, he went on to the NFL and made several $1 million. But just like any other player, when he couldn't play anymore, they told him, you got to go. Because the window is very short. It's a revolving door, Big C, and you know that. It's a revolving door.
Well, Charles,
yeah.
let me inject a little bit on Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, great player, great analyst, okay?
Yeah.
But didn't Chris walk out on his team when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles, when he was, had the drug and alcohol problem?
Yeah.
Didn't he walk out on his team because his coach cut him because he couldn't help his team?
Yeah.
So he was not being faithful to his team or his contract.
Yeah.
He was self-serving. When he was going out abusing substances, Charlton,
yeah.
that's self-serving.
Yeah.
Chris was only thinking about himself. He wasn't thinking about his obligation that the Eagles had made to him financially. Said, we're going to pay you millions of dollars, Chris.
Yeah.
Just come out and make us better.
Yeah.
No, he went out and made himself high.
Yeah.
And yes, Chris, you did that. You know it.
He knows
Don't be hypocritical when a player wants to protect his body when you were out there trying to destroy your body. That's totally hypocritical.
I agree with that. And just like when he was let go, he was doing things that he knew would have him released once he was caught. So now he put his money on the line and his career in jeopardy because he had an issue. Now, some people say it's an addiction, and that's fine. Go get help. We're all for that. But the point is, even when he got healthy again and the league or the team said, we don't need you, they let him go. The same thing working on ESPN, working in them. Television is an ephemeral business, television and radio. As soon as they decide it's time for you to go, they let you go. They let Chris Carter go. Keyshawn Johnson had to go. Ray Lewis had to go. They all got to go. For the most part, if you're black, they're not going to keep you around for a long time. Randy Moss and Charles Woodson, they won't be at ESPN in 5 years. They're going to let them go and replace them with somebody new. That's just the way it goes. The same thing happened to the quarterback. They called him Flash down for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cordell Stewart. It happened to a lot of O.J. Simpson back in the day when he was on TV with NBC. There comes a time when they let you go. They let everybody go. It's an evolving door, whether you're a coach or an athlete. But for the African Americans, they let you go faster, Big C. Is that an accurate thing to say, or am I outside of the box, Big C?
Well, no, Charlton, when you look at the turnover in the game, they have left at a more expeditious rate than everybody else, Charlton.
Yeah.
You get guys that stay around for a long time, not because they're good, but because they're part of the role, Charlton. They look the role. So you keep them there.
Yeah.
The guys who make you uncomfortable, Charlton, are the guys who don't look like you, regardless of their knowledge.
Yeah.
Someone knowing defensive coverage, no one knew more than Chris Carter. I mean, very intelligent, very insightful, knowledgeable about the game.
Could catch anything. I remember him when he played against.
No one brighter than Tom Jackson that has ever been an analyst on any football program. Tom Jackson epitomized what an analyst should be.
Yeah.
He was not a homer. He was a guy who spoke articulately and intelligently, Charlton, about the game. Gave you insight that you were not going to get elsewhere. Gave you a player and a fan and a coach's perspective.
Yeah.
But he had to go. His time ran out. But when you look at homers like Phil Simms, Homer Esiason, these guys are staying around forever.
And
why?
they're like eating
status quo, Charlton.
They're like eating toast without butter on it sometimes, watching their broadcast. there's no excitement, there's no emotion in it. It's like going to a concert and a guy is reading the song as opposed to singing or performing like the late Michael Jackson or Prince or Bruce Springsteen. These guys sing from the heart. They use their higher self. Some of these broadcasters are so comfortable, especially a lot of the guys you just named, they don't even get excited when they call a game. It's like they're just calling a game, and, when I play, this is what it was like. And they get the cash. They cashing checks anyway. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charles, they look like the quarterbacks that are still playing, okay?
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference. They're not going to knock the guy that looks like them, okay?
Yeah.
Even when he's having a bad day. Eli Manning can throw 4 fourth-quarter interceptions. Not his fault. Phillip Rivers can throw 4. Not his fault.
Yeah.
We look up and down. None of them ever blame Brock Osweiler for his ineptitude as a player in Houston this year. It wasn't him. It was the personnel around him.
Yeah.
But that personnel around him went to the playoffs last year, okay?
Yeah.
So Brock Osweiler, the coach, finally got, O'Brien got tired and said, I'm not going to get fired behind this guy. Okay, how much money he makes? I'm going to still keep making my money.
You know what?
And I'll bench you.
You know what's funny about that? I heard, I think it was Stephen A. Smith talking, and I love his work. He's just a little bit angry. It's like, Stephen, you make too much money not to laugh sometimes. At least sometimes, put even a sound effect laughter or something. But he said something that was very poignant. Jerry Jones was saying, even though he was covering up for the fact that the good old boys tactic did not work to try to sabotage his own player, Big C, because his team was in first place. But Jerry Jones came out and said that he tried to talk about the quarterback controversy to create more attention for the Cowboys. But no one comes home and says, hey, honey, I'm going to bring my girlfriend in or my ex-wife in. She's going to be living with us. And if you don't act right, she's going to replace you. No one does that. And then you get called out on it. You say, well, I was just playing, trying to create some animosity. Why create animosity on a team in first place? That's what you do if you're in last place. And just opposed to that, the Houston Texans, they got tired of seeing this guy steal $73 million in the name of Brock Osweiler, and I hope he succeeds, but he's just not that good. He wasn't that good at Arizona State, but he's a tall, white quarterback, so they want to give him 10 chances. But pretty soon when you throw for 48 yards in 1.5 and you throw for a couple interceptions, you can't keep putting your career on the line for that guy. And he was being treated better than Dak Prescott was for having one of the highest quarterback ratings for a quarterback that threw for over 30 times in the history of the NFL. And playing games with that guy is saying that Jerry Jones is more important to him to please Tony Romo than win another Super Bowl trophy for the whole state of Texas and the Dallas Cowboys fans worldwide. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, I also see this from Jerry Jones. When Jimmy Johnson was winning championships with the Cowboys, no one talked about Jerry Jones, and he became very envious and jealous.
Yeah.
Because he was the owner who had hired Jimmy Johnson, his former college buddy, and teammate at Arkansas.
Yeah.
And so there was a rift that started, okay? All of a sudden now, Charlton, you're getting this African-American quarterback that is more popular than the owner. Jerry Jones has been everything for the Cowboys since he's on the team.
Yeah.
The owner, GM, head coach, everything. All right? Now you got this young African-American rookie quarterback that was a mid-round draft pick that has come in and taken the NFL by storm. Everybody tries to find something to knock on him every week, okay?
Yeah.
He didn't do this right. He didn't do that right. He won the game, but, there was flaws in his performance.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, I don't hear him talking about the flaws in these quarterbacks that lose every week, Dalton. This is the thing that I don't hear. I don't hear the flaws in Trevor Siemian in Denver, why he lost. I don't hear it in Brock Osweiler, why he got benched. I didn't hear it in Matthew Stafford this last week, why he lost.
Yeah.
I don't hear these things, Dalton. No one's talking about the flaws of a Kirk Cousins whose team won't make the playoff and he's making $20 million.
Yeah.
We don't get that from these particular quarterbacks. No one's talking about the flaws of an Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
It's the rest of the Indianapolis coach that cannot play. But, here's Dak Prescott with the best record as a quarterback.
Yeah.
In the NFL this year, Charlton, he's the only starting quarterback that has won 12 games.
Yeah.
He's the only starting quarterback that will win 12 games this year, Charlton.
Yeah.
In the NFL.
Yeah.
But there's flaws in his performance every week that people are dissecting. They're not happy with him winning. Just like Jerry Jones. I got to be second tier in Texas. I'm a good old boy to this rookie black quarterback.
Yeah.
He's mine, and I own him. That's the thing about it. I own him, and people think about me in second fiddle to him.
Yeah, that's funny, Big C. I'll never forget. There was a movie called Django, and I think it had the great Jamie Foxx in the movie Django, and it was kind of tough to watch.
Johnson was in the movie, John.
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino.
Tarantino. I think Brad Pitt was also that's 12 Years a Slave, but I think the movie Django is it was so painful to watch because we've seen that Soviet Jim Crow slavery movie too many times.
Samuel L. Jackson was in there.
And there'll be another one come out like every couple of years to make people feel whatever they feel from that. But I just think that's still a little residue left in a lot of people when they have to take orders from one of them. And I think there was even in a movie, I think it was called.
Are you saying President Obama?
Well,
the backlash of America against him.
Well,
it wasn't because he was the president, because he was black.
Well, there's a thing that Van Jones did that if President Obama acted like Donald Trump, could you imagine how people would have lashed out at him? And even though he was very cordial, now people still hated him for whatever reason. And America's not perfect. We still have our issues.
People hated him, Charlton, because he was black.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, because of this
President Obama in America hated him because he was black. Not because of his policies.
Yeah.
Not because of his efforts to unify this country. Not because of his efforts to drop unemployment to its lowest in 12 years, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not because of all the economic things that he put into place, health care and everything else to bring this country together to end wars, to save American lives. When we talk about lives matter, it matters more to President Obama, Charlton, than anybody else. People talk about him pulling out of the Middle East. How many people died in the Middle East, Charlton, prior to President Obama becoming president?
Thousands.
So when we want to talk about lives matter, black lives, white lives, all American lives matter, they owe a debt of gratitude to President Obama for the lives that he has saved. Over 6,000 servicemen and women, Charlton, lost their lives in the Middle East during the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. Wow. Think about how many lives President Obama saved by bringing those soldiers back out of the battlefields, Charlton. That's what he did. Soldiers not being injured and maimed for life, soldiers not losing their lives, Charlton. President Obama doesn't get credit for being concerned about American lives.
Yeah, and I think part of that whole thing that's part of the Kerner Commission written over a half century ago, it goes into media and how media reports on things. And outside of Charlton and Big C Sports, I hardly hear any of the mainstream media treating the Caucasian quarterbacks the way they treated Dak Prescott for winning. And I just want to say this before we go to our last segment. I would just ask everyone, when we talk about race and where people are from, Google Dr. Leakey. Dr. Leakey, he was considered the father of paleontology, and he opined that all life is from the African region of the Nile, and that it's a black region of the world. And that Dr. Mendo, he's considered the father of genetics, and he opined that dark skin is dominant and that light skin is recessive, and that the dominant trait can produce the recessive trait, but the recessive trait can't produce the dominant trait. That's a black and white. It's a history lesson. It's science. It's not babble. It's science. It's not conjecture. It's science. Dr. Leakey and Dr. Gregory Mendel. Google those guys. And as we get into that, Big C, I just want to say this final segment is sponsored by Big C Sports. We're coming out with a calendar, and we'll have people that were posed in Playboy magazine, a very tasteful magazine, but we're also using it to sell our merchandising from Team 5, Team IP, and G5 Textiles. We want to help equip many of the major sports teams and college teams and high school teams in the country, and we'll be able to do that coming up in January on Charlton and Big C Sports at Yes on Twitter, and also on the iHeartRadio network every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Big C, as I let you close it out, I know we haven't talked a lot about the NBA because we've been focused on these 41 bowl games and trying to find teams with a 5-7 record. But any thoughts on your mind as we close out the show today? I know there's some things going on in the NBA, and we'll touch more on that later in the week, Big C. But your thoughts on anything big in the NBA? Go right ahead, sir.
Well, Charlton, you really got to focus on the Houston Rockets right now, the hottest team in the NBA, Charlton. They've won 10 in a row, trying to extend it to 11 tonight, but they're playing the San Antonio Spurs. Yeah. And they're playing them at home, but the San Antonio Spurs, Charlton, are 14-1 on the road this year. Yeah. And so they are a force to be reckoned with. And then we're going to look at Golden State. Golden State is playing in Utah. The last 10 times that Golden State has played, the Jazz, Charlton, they've scored over 100 points in those games. Wow. The last 10 times, but no other NBA, Charlton, has scored more than 100 points in 2 consecutive games against Utah. But they're playing at Oracle Arena tonight out there in your neighborhood. Yeah. So expect Golden State to keep that streak alive, Charlton. But the NBA, Charlton, right now is starting to heat up. Yeah. The better teams are starting to perform. You got the also-rans that are going back into into their shell, what you expect from them, after getting off to a slow start, getting even slower as the season going on. But the great teams and the great players, the Clippers, started out the season as the hottest team in the NBA.
Yeah.
But they've hit that hiccup, Charlton, and once again, they've lost a key player. Blake Griffin had knee surgery.
Wow.
So he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, Charlton, once again, hurting the chances of an organization. A lot of people put a lot of promise, but they're in the Western Division.
Yeah.
And when you think about the Western Division as a whole, Charlton, when you can talk about San Antonio, you can talk about Houston, you can talk about Golden State being relevant, Charlton. How does another team break through that other than the Cleveland Cavaliers in the East? Because you hear nothing else about the Eastern Conference other than the Cleveland Cavaliers, Charlton.
Well, Big C, there's something I'll touch on as we close. I was just watching something on the YouTube channel, and it was going back to the Lakers and the Celtics, and also when the Pistons were good. And I got the chance to see guys that are Hall of Famers that we took for granted, like the late Dennis Johnson, Larry Bird, Danny Ainge, Kevin McHale, and on the Lakers side, the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, James Worthy. They had so many great players, and what I noticed is that they all passed the ball, Big C. They passed the ball. They went inside to the big guy. They were doing the fast break. In L.A., they called it Showtime under the Magic Johnson when they had it at the Forum, and they went on and advanced to play the Detroit Pistons in the NBA Finals, and they had the great Isaiah Thomas. They even had, who's the brother of Dennis Rodman with all the hairdo? He didn't do his hairstyle different until he played for the Bulls. But just watching and Lambeer and all the great rivalries, the great basketball, Big C, I miss those days because they were not as much on a sports center after the games, Big C. But the days of passionate basketball are incredible.
You just mentioned what happened. Sports Center, okay?
Yeah.
It was all about the highlight. It wasn't about the gamesmanship.
Yeah.
It's not about, being a team player. It's about what can I do to get on Sports Center.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to get me out there. It's not about winning a championship.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the plays that are played nightly on Sports Center, they're not from a championship team, Charlton.
No.
The championship teams are not on the highlight reel because they're consistent about what they do.
Yeah.
They're not going to go out there to try to do a windmill dunk and miss it, Charlton.
Yeah.
They're not trying to go out there and put the ball behind their back and do things of that nature. They're playing fundamental basketball.
Yeah.
Those are not highlight reels, Charlton.
Yeah. The Big C, I tell you, you close it out like nobody else. And I love to tell people, I love the sports business. The sports business is $1 billion industry, and we cover the UFC, we cover MMA, we cover college football and basketball, the NHL, the NFL, baseball, basketball, everything. We cover from MTV generation to all the young people out there with their, what they call iPads in their phone in their hands. Big C, we love it all on Charlton and Big C Sports. And as we tell you, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide, follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. We do it real, we do it extemporaneous, we do it without a teleprompter, there's no producer in our ear. And as we always say, there's never any excuse for violence against women. You never deserve the right to hit a woman and get away with it. If you see any woman in trouble, just call 911 so she doesn't have to do that on her own. And as we say, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide, follow Charlton and Big C Sports, the number one show in the universe. And as we always tell you, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.